All right. So tell me about your childhood, where you were born, where you grew up.
My dad was a Marine, so I was born in Camp Pendleton, and we kind of grew up everywhere. I went to Japan, we went to Albuquerque, and then Germany. And then my dad got out of the Marine Corps in 2013. So I call Albuquerque, New Mexico home. Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any siblings or?
Yeah, I'm the oldest of three. My brother, he's 24, and my sister is 23. She's special needs, and she's outstanding.
Awesome. What motivated you to join the military?
My dad, seeing him in his uniforms, and just in the mornings, I remember trying to find his boot bands, and because we would always play with them as kids, and so we would always lose them. So it was like a game trying to find them in the morning, and just seeing just the brotherhood of it. And since I was little, I always wanted to be a Marine.
And you enlisted, correct?
Mhm.
Okay. Which branch did you enter?
Marine Corps.
Okay. And you chose that because of your father, obviously.
Yeah.
Okay. How was your first duty station? Was it what you thought it would be? And why or why not? And what could the service have done better for you?
So my story is a little bit different. I got stationed out in Hawaii, and I thought it was going to be a easy peasy ride. But right when I got out of the schoolhouse, I went on a 20-day leave, and I was sexually assaulted. I didn't report it until a month later, until I was at my duty station in Hawaii. And they kind of just saw me as a SAR case waiting to happen. A SAR case is a sexual assault representative. And so basically you go to them when you have a case. And so we got set up with some people back home in Albuquerque, because that's where the assault happened. And from there, the dynamic of how I was treated was very different. I remember when I first got to the island, I wasn't even there 24 hours. And my corporal said to me that he looked at my Facebook and I looked like a whore. And so that I didn't really say anything about it, because I was just like, okay, well, I guess this is the Marine Corps. So they didn't really take me seriously. After the first assault, I was drinking a lot, and it was just really hard. And they sent me to rehab. That was their way of helping. And then that corporal that said that derogatory term, he assaulted me the weekend that I went to rehab. So I called my mom, and I remember just crying and just saying it happened again, it happened again. And the master guns of the island was in the Marine Corps with my dad. So my dad called him, and with information like that, he had to report it. So all that happened, and I went to rehab. And from there, it was just really, really hard. I was a great Marine. I was in shape. I was learning my job well. Like I enjoyed what I did. But they just made it really, really hard. So I guess it wasn't what I thought it would be. I was hoping for more brotherhood, more support, more of what I thought the Marine Corps was. And it was a really big eye opener, because I was I was really wrong.
So sorry that that happened to you. What was your primary job assignment?
So I was working in the IPAC. I did administrative work. I really enjoyed it. It's something that I didn't think I was gonna like, but I really ended up liking. So when the Marines would come to the island, I would do their paperwork. I would do like if they were to get married, I fix their pay, things like that. So yeah.
What was your most vivid memory of that, or of that part of your service?
I think the only good memory that I had was just being on the island. I remember I was on restriction, and
What does that mean?
restriction is when you get NJP'd. I was NJP'd for underage drinking. I'll go more into that later.
Okay.
But yeah, so I was on a 60-day restriction, I think it was. And I remember where you check in at, there was a basketball court. And I just laid there and I just looked at the stars, and it was just so peaceful. And then there's a beach right there, so like you can hear the waves. And it was just in that moment, even though everything was just so chaotic, like that was peace. So that was a blessing in disguise.
It's beautiful. Despite all the difficulties and challenges that you were given, do you remember any humorous aspect of it or unusual event?
I think the terminology that we use as Marines is definitely different.
It's its own language, right?
It is, and it's very humorous is what it is. Just the way that we would get along, but me and the female Marines, like we would get along just fine. And just the dumb things that we would do on our off times, it was stupid but really funny.
Do you have an example of that?
So we went out to, we call it Great Wall of China, because it was this big cliff, and we had a few beers and everything, and we were just jumping off and just swimming, and it was just like the things that we would do, and it was so peaceful, but at the same time, like it was really dumb to jump off a cliff and just so.
What leaders helped you along the way and which ones didn't?
I remember this chief warrant officer. I was really struggling one night, and I called him, and it was like 10:30 at night. And he drove to the barracks and he just chatted with me. He just talked with me, and he ended up writing a letter to try and convince the command to let me stay in the Marine Corps. And he vouched for me, and I don't know what I would have done without him. And then there was another chief warrant officer for Thanksgiving. He brought me food to the barracks, and it was just so kind of him. And I'm gonna drop a name. Her name, she was a corporal at the time, Corporal Arias. I believe she's a sergeant now. And she's the Marine that I wish I could have got to be. She was so motivating, she was so kind, and she was just well put together, and she really took care of me.
She sounds like someone you'll always remember.
Absolutely.
Were you awarded any special citations or?
No, I think the Marine Corps kind of did their way with trying to get me out, like as fast as they could. So after I reported the second assault, I was getting investigated for drugs. And NCIS got involved, and that's when they got me with underage drinking. I never popped on a UA. I never did drugs in the military, in the Marine Corps. So that kind of prevented me from going up in rank. I got rank taken from me. I wasn't able to go to McMap courses, and it was really hard. It was really hard. I tried to get to Lance Corporal, but they wouldn't let me go to Lance Corporal course. It was really hard. They prevented me from doing a lot of things that I wanted to accomplish.
And you felt as though the only real advocate you had was the sergeant you mentioned, or she was a corporal.
Yes, but her hands were tied. You know, in the Marine Corps, it's a man's world. And as a female, you can only do so much. And she did as much as she could to make sure that I was just okay. But she couldn't really do much. I didn't make it easy. I was drinking. I didn't know that I was struggling with PTSD and flashbacks. So drinking was my only coping. And she couldn't really help out in that aspect because I kind of made my own bed.
What advice would you have for someone else that was in that position?
Ask for help and don't be afraid of it. There's probably going to be a lot of repercussion, a lot of backlash, a lot of people telling you to get over it. I had a gunny Dominguez. He was a drill instructor, and he specifically told me, get over it. It happened 3 months ago. So if you hear something like that, it's not an excuse, but that's just how the Marine Corps is. And there is no feelings. There is no being human in a way.
Compassion.
Yep. No compassion, nothing. I want to advise females to stay strong and just don't lose who you are.
Okay, very good. What have you done since you left the service?
So I ended up going back to my high school job. I was working at Krispy Kreme for a long time. And it wasn't until recently that I got sober. And I moved out here in November and I started working here. But when I got out, it was really hard. I fell into a really deep addiction. I was in rehab 3 times. I got in PTSD treatment twice. And it was really hard for me to get back up on my feet and love myself and find myself deserving of life. All because of being torn down the way that I was. But in this past 10 months, I finally found who I am now. And I never thought that I would be in this position. And it's growth, and I'm clean, I'm sober, and from drugs and alcohol. And I'm working here at the VA.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. Congratulations on your perseverance. How do you think this total military experience has contributed to or impacted your life?
It's impacted me tremendously. It took me forever to just deal with the PTSD. Sometimes I can barely talk about it. I have nightmares. I get flashbacks. Any little thing can set me off. And it's really frustrating. And sometimes I think, like, why am I sober if I'm going through this? But one thing that the Marine Corps taught me is that I'm a lot stronger than what they told me I was. So, yeah.
Excellent. And I see you have Max,
Yes, my
your
service
service dog.
dog. Yes.
Has he helped tremendously or?
Oh, absolutely. He's my whole world. When I get nightmares, he helps me with my nightmares. He'll wake me up. Um, when I'm having really bad anxiety, he'll come and put his head on me, and he's a grounding tool for sure.
Good,
Yeah.
good. So you've sort of, this may be redundant, and if so, just say, and we can move on. Are there any other major life lessons that you would like to share from your military experience?
With this, I think I kind of want to express how common military sexual assault is, and not just women, but men as well. There are so many cases that get swept under the ground because the Marine or the soldier is well put together or has a great PFT and stuff, and they sweep the case under the ground because there's not enough evidence. It's really common, and it's not taken seriously. Just like the young lady in the Army, Vanessa, it's tragic to hear what happened, and they're trying to pass a bill for if a sexual assault is in progress, like if it's not going to go through their command, they're not going to get convicted through their command, but a different command. And I think that that's just absurd. It's still military thinking. It's still, they can still know that soldier that committed the sexual assault and still push it under the rug. And this bill is trying to be passed, and I don't think that this is taken seriously because a lot of men and women are impacted. A lot of men and women are dealing with PTSD to this, and it's sad. It's really sad.
Is there anything that positively that you miss about the service?
Absolutely. The uniform, just the jokes and the giggles, and just hanging out outside, just being around Marines. I can call myself a Marine. That's something that I wanted to do since I was little, and I accomplished that. And even though I got pushed out and I got a general under honorable terms, I still have my uniforms. I still try to see if they fit sometimes. And I think just that name, Marine, and I'm grateful for it. So, and just the people that I did meet along the way that helped out.
Excellent. And is there, given the circumstances, is there anything besides that that you're really glad to have left behind?
I don't know. That's a tricky question because it was like, I say it was the best, worst time of my life. I really learned a lot about myself and a lot about the world at a young age. And I know it sounds crazy, but I'd do it all over again. I really would.
Interesting. What do you wish that more civilians knew about veterans and about the military service?
It's not easy. It's life-changing. Even though I spent 15, 16 months in the Marine Corps, it was so hard to transition into civilian life. I remember when I went back to Krispy Kreme working there, there's a 16-year-old, and I called him a knucklehead. And he went to HR, and I was like, what? And my sternness and my work ethic has definitely changed, but it's not easy. There's a lot of people struggling because imagine having a bunch of friends around you one day, and then getting out and going to your family. And it's like your family is not even as close to you as those group of friends were. So it's like getting out and feeling so alone. And I just hope civilians can understand that it's a hard transition. You know, the things that happen in the military, sometimes people don't talk about. It's hard to talk about, and they're coping with it. And it's a long journey.
What would you like people to know about your particular journey?
It's rough and emotional. I have good days and I have bad days. But that I've learned how to love myself again through it. And I want people that are going through this, men and women, to know that it's going to be okay. There's a light at the end of the tunnel, and it's hard work, but that you can accomplish it.
Awesome. Is there any message you would like to leave for future generations?
Even though I had a rough time in the Marine Corps, I set my heart on it. And if your heart tells you to do it, do it. Because in the Marine Corps, we say, you know, it is a calling. It is something that you're called to do. And just do it. Be smart about it, you know, mentally prepare for it, because it's all a mental game. You know, physically, you don't have to be in the best shape. Be humble, don't be entitled, and love what you do. And it's not all stories are bad.
Good message. Is there anything else you would like to add to the interview?
Just thank you guys for having me here.
I'd like to thank you for participating in the program and having the courage and perseverance that you've demonstrated. And we wish you the best.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yay, good job. Good job. Good job.
Excellent.
My lovey.
You want me to give you that back there? I know I had a cough at the end of it.